So I finally got the book, The Wahls Protocol, a couple days ago, and I read it in about, I'd say, 2 days. Read the whole book, and this is a book, a truly paleo plus book. It's a book that is basically the paleo diet for grown-ups. Now, people that aren't aware of who Dr. Terry Wahls is, Dr. Wahls is a physician who got progressive multiple sclerosis, and reversed it to a point. Now, she is still progressing, but she reversed it to a point where she was in a wheelchair. Now she's exercising like a normal person, running marathons, etc. She's healthy. Her brain is no longer as messed up. She's not stumbling, things of that nature. So now she might be in remission. I'm not sure on that. I'm not sure on what her current state is. I know that she has stated in past interviews that she is still progressing, but at a slower rate. But she did obviously reverse the downward trajectory to a large extent, being that she was in a tilt-recline wheelchair and then she went to walking again. Some in the vegan community have been critical of her because they're saying that the vegetables were primarily what healed her. I would probably agree with that statement, but I think that she deserves a lot of credit because, well, I don't really think it was the vegetables. I think it was the vegetables combined with the supplements that were the primary cause of her resurgence in health, were the supplements with the vegetables, including the sea vegetables. A lot of people... Now, what she did is she went back to Paleolithic diets, paleo, like hunter-gatherer diets. I don't see why we don't go back to the chimpanzee diet to see how to eat. And why do I say that? Well, the chimpanzee diet and the hunter-gatherer diet, they're pretty much the same composition of foodstuffs, okay? Where's the difference? Well, the difference comes in the preparation. And humans are made to eat cooked foods, particularly cooked starches. And this is one of the problems I have with the paleo diet, is it's very much against any starches, really, except for some starchy vegetables. But it doesn't incorporate a lot of beans. Now, Dr. Wahls' diet, the Wahls Protocol, there's three. There's the Wahls diet, the Wahls Paleo Plus, and or the Wahls Paleo diet and the Wahls Paleo Plus. Wahls Paleo Plus is a ketogenic diet, what I would call a very clean Atkins diet. It is an Atkins diet free of dairy. It incorporates things like fermented foods, things of that nature. However, I personally am against including fermented foods. Why? Mast cell overactivation. People don't understand the importance of excluding fermented foods from the diet. The microbiome does not require you to eat fermented foods. The microbiome requires you to eat the proper prebiotics and things like beans, bananas, green leafy vegetables, things of that nature. You need the proper prebiotics to have a healthy gut microbiome. It does not require the consumption of fermented foods like some people think. So I'm against including fermented foods, and I'll put in why you should not in the description, why you shouldn't eat fermented foods, particularly if you have issues with mast cell overactivation, asthma, things of that nature. But I agree with the majority. I agree with the diet. I agree with the exercise programs. I agree with the E-stim, which is electrical stimulation of the muscles. I agree how she focuses on how to eat for micronutrient optimization. I agree with the 9 cups of vegetables, 3 cups of leafy greens, 3 cups of leafy greens, 3 cups of colored vegetables, and what's the other one? 3 cups of cruciferous vegetables. I agree with that. I agree with all that. I agree how she includes mushrooms. I agree with what she talks about with incorporating some sea vegetables in order to get the iodine, which is lacking in the modern human diet. I agree with everything about the diet and the protocol and things like that. Where I draw the line, like this is the thing, the Wahls protocol, the first diet, the Wahls protocol, not Wahls Paleo or Wahls Paleo Plus, but the Wahls protocol can be done vegetarian. The reason that the later ones can't be done vegetarian is because they exclude beans, which would include soy. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that you should avoid soy if you are not having an issue with soy. Okay? I don't agree with avoiding soy. I think that you could very easily have a ketogenic diet that's based off of the same stuff as the Wahls protocol if you included things like tofu and tempeh and things of that nature. High fat, high protein, soy-based products. I think that overall everything she says makes a lot of sense. Some of the details are off because the science is a little bit old. The archaeological and anthropological science is a little old. We now know that humans have been cooking starches since the Paleolithic times because of dental calculus and things like that. This is the argument I would make against people. I'm all for beans. This is the thing. This is the problem with the starch solution. Not all starches are created equal because it's like meat. Not all proteins are created equal. Not because of the proteins per se, but because what you're getting along with the protein or with the starches, what you're not getting along with the starches. Beans are a far superior starch because you get, this is what people, I was actually going to do a video all about this and I think I will. The bean, most beans like black beans, great northern beans, pinto beans, etc., they're almost a perfectly balanced food. You're essentially getting about double the insulin stimulating carbohydrate, well, a little bit less, about a little, maybe 75% of the insulin stimulating carbohydrate per gram of protein in the beans, okay? And people will say, well, their beans are low in methionine. You won't get enough methionine in beans. If you're getting 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight from beans, most beans you will definitely be getting enough methionine without getting too much methionine. So you will qualify as being methionine restricted, but not dangerously low in methionine. Okay? If you're actually eating 9 cups of beans a day or 6 cups of beans a day or something of that nature to equal around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. With soy, you don't even have to eat that much, especially with tofu, things of that nature. But the thing is, now tofu is not a starchy bean though. Like soy is not a starchy bean, it's a fatty bean. But my point is that people need to take into consideration the fiber content in beans, and people go, oh, you can't do all that fiber. Our hunter, as people like to say, our hunter-gathering ancestors got about 100 grams of fiber every day. I'm sure that everybody would be doing better getting closer to 100 grams of fiber than 30 or 40 grams of fiber or whatever the government recommends today. You should be shooting for closer to 100 grams of fiber and less closer to 30 or 40. So shoot up, not down. Of course, you should slowly incorporate fiber, blah, 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 blah. But one of the problems is not all starches are created equal. Not all starchy foods are created equal, I should say. That's one of the problems I had when I was doing the starch solution. I tried a potato-centered diet. Now, Dr. McDougall's against the proteins and whatnot. And all these people like to talk about protein overload. You're going to overload your body on protein and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. If you're not consistently eating over 1 gram per pound of body weight, which is 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, if you're not consistently eating that over a course of many days or weeks, you're not going to overdo your protein intake. The thing with the beans is they have enough carbohydrate. Now, the bean thing has nothing to do with the Wahls protocol, although she does talk about incorporating beans and the importance of soaking beans and things like that. What you have to understand with the beans is they also have the carbohydrates for protein sparing. Okay? Not too many carbohydrates, just enough for protein sparing. So you're not overdoing it on the carbohydrates. And I know what people are saying. Beans are predominantly carbohydrate. Yes, but about a third of that carbohydrate or more comes from fiber, which not only helps to slow the carbohydrate from the starch, slow its entrance into the bloodstream, but it does not, it stabilizes blood sugar, but it also helps to feed the good bacteria in the gut. This is what people are not understanding. Everybody wants to eat these fancy fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut and all this stuff, which Dr. Wahls does talk about, and which is one point I disagree with. I do not agree, and I think it's very important that people understand. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a licensed healthcare provider, but what I worry about is with mast cell overactivation and things like that, the incorporation of fermented foods can aggravate that sort of thing. But my point is that in order to have a healthy microbiota, it's more important to include proper prebiotics than it is to take in probiotics from fermented foods. Now, a lot of people like to talk about how the vegetables, now this is the thing, is the Wahls protocol the only diet that beats autoimmune diseases? Is it? No, it's not. If you actually, there's two people, Bob and Fran Gurman, and I'm going to actually review their book also. They wrote a book that's available on Amazon, and I bought it, and I'm going to review their book. Now, the woman, Fran Gurman, had myasthenia gravis, which is a horrible autoimmune disease. I actually know a woman that has it, and she goes through it. It affects the whole body. You can go into myasthenia crisis and stop breathing, and you go into respiratory arrest. But she reversed that with a whole food plant-based diet based off of the China study. So the Wahls protocol is not the only means to that end. In fact, vegan diets, many vegan diets, whole food vegan diets that are not junk food vegan diets, have had very good luck with dealing with autoimmune diseases. So I will be including links to Bob and Fran Gurman's channel and a couple interviews with them, and of course interviews with Dr. Wahls and Dr. Wahls' TED Talk. I think Dr. Wahls, where Dr. Wahls deserves most of the credit, is getting this research done to prove a lot of this good stuff. She's been remarkable at getting that done. Everything from the e-stim devices to the nutrient protocols and the dietary protocols and how it actually does help with traumatic brain injuries and obesity and autoimmune disorders like multiple sclerosis. And the thing is, what Dr. Wahls discovered is this is how you create health. This is how you create health, is with a whole food, plant-centered diet. Whether we call that diet the paleo diet or the Wahls protocol or a vegan diet or whatever we're calling it, it's a whole foods, plant-based diet is essentially what it is. And I know what people are saying, but the Wahls protocol has meat in it. I never liked the term plant-based. I like to refer to myself as a strict vegetarian because I don't fall into the vegan camp. I'm not quite that kooky. I'm not to the point where I'm against anti-venom and testing drugs on animals and things like that. I do think that there is some requirement for a certain amount of animal exploitation. I believe humans are higher than other animals based on our intellect and things of that nature. In fact, you know what? Why the hell don't I do it? I was going to do a separate video on how speciesism, I consider myself a speciesist, how speciesism automatically should make somebody a vegan from an ethical point of view. Ethically speaking, it is immoral and unethical for humans to exploit animals as a food source, to breed them unnecessarily for slaughter, okay, and to give them a torturous life up until the point of slaughter. It is not acceptable for, and I was going to do this as a separate video, but why don't I just include it now? Everybody knows I just do these videos, I freeball these videos. So essentially, if you are a speciesist and you have a brain and you can think and you're objective with your views on the world, you would understand that being a speciesist, meaning that you recognize that humans are above other animals. They're above other mammalian animals and above every known animal in existence. Humans are above them because of our intellect, our social structures, our culture, etc. Okay, well, that also puts us, as the Bible states and other religion states, we are stewards of the earth and stewards of the other animals. I'm not against animal testing because it serves a legitimate purpose. The consumption of meat does not serve a legitimate purpose. It's a completely unnecessary thing, especially now that we have supplementation for B vitamins and vitamin D, and basically everything can be gathered in a vegan manner. So there's no real reason, there's no nutrients that cannot be obtained through modern science in a vegan manner. Therefore, the consumption of animal flesh is immoral and unethical. So if you are going to be a speciesist and you agree that humans are above animals, and you also agree, and you should agree, if we're above other animals, that we are stewards of nature and stewards of the other animals, and that humans are allegedly, I mean, as far as we know, we are the highest, we are the pinnacle of nature. As far as our intellect, our civilizations, etc. As far as we know, we don't know of anything as advanced as us. Which means it falls on us to be the good stewards of the world and to be the good stewards towards other animals and to be ambassadors of goodwill toward other animals. And people are going to go, that sounds ridiculous. It does not sound ridiculous unless you're hanging on to these old hang-ups of superiority, a superiority complex, which is unnecessary. You don't need this nonsense. If you can't let go of this egotism, and it means you have a weak ego, not a strong ego. It means you have a poor sense of self, not a strong sense of self. And you'll see this among many of the people in the carnivore community that can't handle reality. They can't accept reality on reality's terms. Obviously, a meat-centered diet is poisonous to people. It's clear. It's not healthy to consume a meat-centered diet. So, yeah, I figured I'd just throw that in with this video because why the heck not? I was planning on doing it anyway. Why the heck not? So, my point is that Dr. Wahls deserves a lot of credit. One of the funnier things about the whole thing with Dr. Terry Wahls is Dr. Terry Wahls, one of the first interviews I saw with Dr. Wahls, the guy, I think it was Dave Asprey, the guy that wears the red glasses and goes, when you're on a date, I drink my coffee with my fat bombs. I get my ghee and I put it in my coffee and I drink it, whoop-de-doo. That guy. I believe it was him that brought up how Dr. Wahls is homosexual and how she's married to a woman. It's almost like no matter who's interviewing her, somewhere along the line, it has to come up with the fact that she's gay, has a wife, and successfully raised 2 children. I don't think this is even her doing. She doesn't seem to care. But what drives me nuts, she deserves so much credit for the scientific achievements of the Wahls protocol, of proving these paleo principles that actually work in functional medicine. And it's not just the diet. This is what people don't understand. Why do vegans look like crap, generally speaking? Is it the diet? Well, if they're following a junk food vegan diet, yes, a lot of times it is. My decline, I declined following a whole food vegan diet until I decided to go back to following a lower carbohydrate diet and re-embracing a more of an Eco-Atkins type diet. But the thing is, I had to incorporate lots of exercise, I was doing fine on the starch solution, mind you, which is not a good diet. I'll admit the starch solution is a crummy diet. I was thriving on a crappy diet due to my exercise regime, which was about 6 hours a day. When I cut it back down to an hour a day, I couldn't maintain my health. So I can maintain my health on about 2 hours of exercise. I'm doing about 2 to 2.5 hours of exercise a day right now. Some days I don't exercise. Some days I might just do some stretching. Some days I might do nothing. Some days might be a rest day. But about 6 days a week I'm exercising for about 2 to 2.5 hours. My health is gradually improving on this lower carbohydrate, this very high protein vegan diet. So it's not the diet alone. The diet is central. It's a central part, so is the supplementation, which should be included under diet. But the Wahls protocol includes exercise. It includes stress reduction, such as prayer and meditation, and yoga, Reiki, acupuncture. It includes so many different things that Dr. Wahls proved with research is effective at reversing severe autoimmune diseases, TBIs, traumatic brain injuries for veterans. She has done so much good research which has proved these things that is what she deserves the respect for. Whether it's a paleo diet or a vegan diet or whatever, she's the one that got the work done, got the respect. And I might even say this, like, even if it is because she was gay, if that's why she was getting the initial respect, who cares? This science, this basic science is so important that we have for things like promoting anti-aging. And that's another thing. One of the things is with the Wahls Paleo Plus, the ketogenic version of the Wahls diet, I think that's probably a lot healthier than the fasting mimicking diet, which it essentially is the fasting mimicking diet, but it's done in a different way, and there's a lot more micronutrients in it and things of that nature, and it's not deficient in protein. Although she does talk about reducing your protein to go into ketosis and things of that nature. But I do think that the Wahls protocol and the Wahls Paleo Plus protocol, I think it's superior to Dr. Valter Longo's approach. I think that more healthy people should embrace the Wahls protocol, and it should be researched in a gerontological standpoint or juventological standpoint to show that how it affects healthy people. And I think that would be a wonderful idea to see its effects on aging. I know that Dr. Wahls was inspired by Dr. Bruce Ames, the guy that was the creator of the triage theory of aging and disease, the founder of that theory, which again is proven. But I mean, yeah, this woman is amazing. I highly recommend people watch the videos and the links. I highly recommend people buy the book and read the book. And I highly recommend people implement the protocol if they can. And that's all for this video.